What's happening, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Hey, today we are going over and touching on just the Honda, specifically Crf250F. We've been trying to compile a video here of the order of, as far as our mods and things like that we have. If we could do this over, what order would we perform these in? What are some of the most important to us personally? So it's that time, and we're going to go ahead and push these out. So first up here, guys, no matter what type of riding you're doing, I am going to suggest protection. So whether it be as far as your skid plate, your front rotor guards, your rear rotor guard, your rear caliper guard, your hand guards, that is number one in my book. And that's because no matter if you're riding trails, enduro, single track, hare scrambles, things like that, the bike is going to get beat up, guys. So protect it, okay? I can tell you from firsthand experience, the stock skid plate really isn't worth anything. A lot of others will say the same thing. I ended up actually cracking mine and completely split it down the side, probably my first week of owning this bike after taking it off the showroom floor. So the Flatland Racing skid plate that I currently use actually wraps around the sides there of the engine. Of course, it is heavy. I get it. It doesn't do anything for the weight of this, but we'll jump into what I use to help with that in a second. Protection's a must regardless. And as far as your hand guards, whether you want wraparounds, you want, the full bark buster wraparounds, or if you just want the flags, that's completely up to you and what your preference is on those. I don't prefer the wraparounds as much as I do as the flags with racing, just because of getting my hand caught in there. If I take a nasty spill, sometimes it could, depending on which way you go, catch your arm in there. So that's the only reason I don't run those on the bikes, is just with as far as the race perspective there. But after your protection is done on those things that I mentioned, we are moving on to the handlebars. Honda stock bars, guys, on these 250Fs and a lot of other Hondas out there. I know my son's 150R also has the same exact issue. They are junk, y'all. Absolute junk. So handlebars and my risers, just because of my height and how tall I am 6'1". That was an absolute must on this thing, which paired very well with my size 12 boots of the oversized foot pegs, y'all. I wanted to be comfortable on this thing. So after you've already protected the bike, make it comfortable for you. Now you can go with frame guards as well. I never did, I will go ahead and tell you, but I know that the left side of the frame does end up getting pretty washed up here with just your boots and stuff rubbing up against it. I know the right side you do have one, so that's a preference. I have not done it with mine. I may end up getting one here very soon after I recoat that side of the frame, just from how hard it's been rubbed here lately. So that's an option you also have as well. So jumping into what I had said earlier, I know this bike needs a diet. So after I have done my protection, I've made it comfortable for me as far as my feet placement, my hands, all that stuff. I'm getting a set of tugger straps. I've got one here on the front. I also have the rear tugger strap. Got these from Rocky Mountain ATV MC. But these things are a lifesaver, whether it be in the trails or it be just loading the bikes up, moving them around the shop, whatever have you. Tugger straps are great, and it really doesn't kill yourself, especially if you get stuck, lay it down into a tree, need to move it, just grab it, give it a yank. So far, guys, protection number one, comfort is number two. All right, get this bike set up specifically for you. Now we're going to dive into the third item, which is going to be pretty controversial depending on how much you weigh, what your height is, and what you're planning on doing with the bike. And that comes down to the suspension. All right, yes, this kind of does fall into the category of comfort for you as well, but I'm not really categorizing it as comfort because I could have ridden this thing completely stock. Yes, I would have got a lot of feedback and stuff in rock gardens, hill climbs and stuff would have been pretty bouncy, would have bottomed it out over any type of jumps, anything like that. But I still could have made it work, but it is number three. So suspension, I would just end up doing your front fork springs. And then of course in the rear, I left mine stock. I did have the BBR heavy duty rear spring in here, but I did take it out. I'm not going to dive into my exact setup. There's other videos that cover that. But your suspension, I would not go balls to the wall. Figure out what it is that you guys would like as far as out of your suspension, what your weight is, what your height is. There's tons of feedback out there. If you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to help. But there's also a lot of stuff out there kind of guiding you in that direction, whether it be Bruce's or you go the cheap route. You've got the El Jefe for the rear, the Tuscany and stuff. I mean, there's so many options out there. So it just comes down to what your budget is and what you're really looking to achieve and what your riding style is. So I can tell you, as far as for me, check out my setup in my other videos. That worked perfect for me. So jumping into the next thing, it's kind of 2 into 1, really. I say this because they make the perfect pair up. So if you have the money to spend to do both of these at the same time, it's going to make the biggest difference, and that is the rear tire. All right, I'm running a 110, a wider rear tire on this thing, and that is a life changer. I have seen multiple people say the 110 makes such a huge difference, oh this and that. My very first race I did with this thing, I did not have that 110 rear tire on it. And I will tell you, it was pretty sketchy, just as far as traction goes, digging in, biting. But when I put that 110 rear on this thing, I listened to everybody else's reviews and stuff on it. Huge difference, which pairs up greatly with my next one of gearing as well. I ended up running a Renthal Ultralight in the rear, a 51 tooth. So your stock is a 50 tooth, and I ended up taking it up to a 51. Got me a little bit more bark, a little bit more bite on my lower end, so torque-wise. And then, of course, the front, I am running a 12 tooth in the front. Those with the bigger tire really helped me out. And you can still lug this thing. There's no problem with that, with running the 51 in the rear and a 12 up front. Whether it be third gear, second gear, it's still perfectly fine. I know second and third is really the sweet spot on these bikes. So those are my 4 and 5. Essentially, I would combine those into one. And now the fun stuff, which yes, I would do because of seeing the difference that it makes, even with something so small up to something so big. Let's get into the performance. Where do we even start on performance? What is going to be your best bang for the buck? Well, I don't know about you, but what I will tell you is, in my personal opinion, the very first thing I am doing performance-wise on this bike is an Athlon fully tunable ECU from Forcecam. That opens this bike up so much, even on a stock platform. And you can pair that up with a free mod of opening this airbox, all right? The airbox lid is completely off of the 250Rs, okay? The 250RX, all that crap, all right? Take your lid off. Just cut it completely off. Open it up. Let it breathe when you get this Athlon fully tunable ECU. Now, with that being said, do not take your stock bike without having this ECU and rip that lid off, okay? Your bike is already set up to run exactly how Honda, had put it, with it being completely restricted as far as the airflow, your fuel, all that stuff. It's already set up, okay, with their stock ECU. So don't rip your lid off until you get an ECU. I was running the EJK, of course, when I first got the bike, but all it does is just dumps more fuel. Okay, that's all it does. It doesn't really fine tune the bike. I ended up, when I had broken the bike apart, I had nothing but build up on my piston. It was nasty on the inside. So rip that out. Athlon ECU from Forcecam is the way to go. But then you can remove the lid. Now you can also, at that point, when you remove the lid, take your screen out. That restrictive screen behind your air filter, take that out. It's free to do. Your air filter is going to stop anything else coming in. All right. Why restrict it even further with that screen? Cut it out, okay? Put your air filter back on. If you want to run a bigger air filter, absolutely. I ended up getting mine from Hyperlight Moto. I am running the bigger air filter in it. As far as anybody wanting to know where I got my mods, I will put a list in the community section that you guys can check out of everything done with the bike, as well as all the links on it. So I'll have that up for you guys too. Now I will say, paired up with that Athlon fully tunable ECU, please remember that fully tunable ECU, okay? If you guys want more information on that, again, guess where I'm going to direct you? My other videos. There's tons of them out there. And your free airbox mod that you can do, minus if you want to go a bigger filter route. You also should consider an exhaust system, guys. That is another thing. I do have the full Yoshi RS2 system, but I can tell you there are a lot of other good ones out there, and they're going to be a lot less of the cost, okay? For example, the other 250F that we have has the force cam exhaust system, full exhaust system as well, and that was probably almost, I would say it was only a third of the cost of the Yoshi. All right, so you're going to save a ton of money there. I absolutely would have went with one of their exhaust systems instead of the Yoshi. Nothing against Yoshi, but just as far as your cost comparison and you get the same exact performance level out of it, I would have went with absolutely the Force Cam's exhaust for a third of the price. Now I get it. My next point is going to be very controversial. There's going to be so many people that are out there that say, oh, just buy a race bike. Stop spending that much money into it. Stop doing this. Buy a race bike. Well, let's go ahead and dive in and activate those Karens. All right, big bore kit. That is something I would absolutely do. I would do it all over again. I'm continuing to do them, and we've actually got something still up our sleeve for this one and the other one. But I would say no matter what you're looking at, whether it be the 275, the 310, 360 from Force Cam, I would definitely suggest even just a 275. I would say bang for your buck, the 310 will probably land you so comfortable. And the reason that is last on my list is not because of the impact or the cost. It's because I really feel that you need to set a bike up, okay, to protect the bike yourself, make it comfortable for you, ride it, get comfortable with it. Then let's go ahead and start adding into your performance, your power, things like that after you've got it all kind of dialed in. And yes, I know there's other things that you can add, such as like your brake lines or, fork extenders, linkages. Yes, I raised this bike up. I'm not getting into that, guys. Go check out the other videos for real. If you want to know everything that's done to this thing and how I like it, the reviews on it, and why I did it. That's all out there. So this is my list of what I would mod, in what order, and exactly the route I would go. I will tell you that the cost to do all this, yes, it was a little bit higher as far as myself because, hear me out, I also tested a lot of stuff along the way, such as like BBR springs, cleats, stuff like that, and I didn't use them. I ended up taking them back off because I just didn't like them. I had ran different bars, I ran different risers, I ran, different handguards, but I still tallied that up in my cost. So that's it, guys. Now you got it in order. We've got our protection, we've got our comfort, we've got our suspension, we've got our gearing and tire setup, and then we jump into the performance of this thing. Performance was a huge one for me just because I do end up racing these things. I raced the CRF, I raced it in a Msxc, raced it in GNCC, we've done Warns, and then I've also raced, of course, the Cowie, but that was a big thing for me. I really wanted to see kind of how it holds up, and it does. It holds its own. So the performance was a big thing for me. However, I can say for you guys, focus more on your riding, focus more on your comfort, focus more on getting this bike set up for you, and then attack as far as that little bit more performance or that lot of more performance that you want out of this thing. But I will have all the links again in the community section of the channel. Check it out, show you guys exactly where I got everything. Please also check out this stuff on even the bore kits, the performance and all. If you guys want to see that stuff, we've got the videos out there. We did a battle of the bores where we put the 275 big bore kit with the race cam and the 310 up against each other with a rally cam, and then we raced it up against this Cowie. So all this stuff is out there, guys. We're not done yet. We still got plans for this one. We've got plans for the other one. We're still making it happen, but I hope this helped you guys out just to kind of see what order you guys may be interested in modifying your bikes with, what is important to me. Regardless, whatever your decision is, if you own one, congratulations. It is an absolute amazing bike. I love these things to death. If you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. Again, this is my own personal opinion. So for the other Karens out there that have other suggestions, do as you will. I'm just giving you my own personal opinion, all right? Don't shoot the messenger. Appreciate you guys as always. Please be a friend, tell a friend, like, share, and subscribe. It's free to do. Love y'all. We'll see y'all in the next one.